What's going on, guys? We're live. I'm excited to have a cornerstone of the shooting community. He's been in podcast media for as long as I've been a competitive shooter. Man really needs no introduction, but I'm going to do my best to give him one anyway. He's a grandmaster in production, shooting carry optics on the IPSC World Shoot team this year in carry optics light. He is just a serial competitor, super serious, all over the country with all these majors. He shot some cartoonish amount of majors in 1 year. So if there's anybody who really understands the sport on a deep level, what the culture of USPSA like, what it is to be a competitive shooter, I'd say this man kind of lives it. I mean, but that said, I'm going to go ahead and bring him online. I've got Mr. Matt Hopkins joining me here. Matt, how are you this evening?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good, doing good. So, I mean, we've chatted a little bit about this, but to kind of give everybody sort of a flavor for what we're going to do here. Some people may not be familiar with you, so we'll kind of go through your background. I've kind of given you a little bit of an intro and kind of what the game means to you. If you guys are curious and want to know more, if you go on to the USPSA website, Matt wrote an article for the USPSA magazine that's in this quarter's edition of that, so you can hear him more in his own words there, but he's going to be running for the area director spot up in Area 3 where he's from. So that said, Matt, if you could just give us an elevator introduction on what you are.
I was living alone, being a mechanic down in Tulsa. My apartment got broken into, so I went out and bought a gun, right? So typical story. And then I'm like, well, I don't really know how to use this. I should go seek some professional training. So I sought out a training course at a training school in Tulsa. The instructors were actually competitive shooters, so they invited me out to the next match. They, I don't know if they saw anything or anything, but they saw I was very interested, so I went out and shot the next monthly. I believe it was USPSA. So I shot IDPA and USPSA back then. First match was USPSA in summer of 2007. Shot my first state level match that fall down in Double Tap.
Yeah, I'll be shooting that in May.
Awesome range. Awesome match director. Put on great events. It was a North Texas section match. I took first C class in production there, and basically been hooked ever since then. Competing since late 2007.
So since 2007, and how long has production been a division?
Since 2002, I believe.
So yeah, within the first 5 years, it's basically a founder of the division.
I guess at this point, yeah, that's one of the things I have to come to getting used to, honestly, is like not being the new guy in the sport anymore after all these years of competing.
I mean, that puts you in, you're basically entering your 15th year of being a competitive shooter. And I mean, you reorganized your whole life sort of in pursuit of this game somewhat. I mean, I don't know if the CZ gig came as a result of being a competitive shooter or because you liked competitive shooting, you went to CZ. Like, well, what was the story there?
So I was down working on cars for a while, decided I didn't like working on the cars. So I came back and was helping at my parents' restaurant for several years. And then I was still competing on the side. So that's when I was 2000, probably 8, 9, and 10. Roughly 3 years at my parents' restaurant, and then there was an opening at CZ for a customer service rep. So I applied. I got the job at CZ. Started doing basic order entry, talking to people on the phone, answering questions, filling web store orders. So doing that, and then progressed through my career at CZ, and still currently working there right now.
And that's got to be a very compatible lifestyle for your sport you do on the side and what you do for work.
They are very accommodating, and they like, I'm out there representing the brand every week, every time I go shoot. Like, even if it's a weekly, like, no level kind of just shoot with friends that go out and shoot USPSA or just action type shooting. All that is like representing the brand. So they love it. They take care of me very, very well.
That's really cool. And if I seem to recall that you spent some time, you may not be now, but at one point, weren't you a match director?
No, I still am, actually. So when I moved to Kansas City, I got roped into helping with the local, like the main club at Mill Creek. So I ran that USPSA match for around 4 years, and then I took a break, and I came back last year and I started running the match again. So this will be my second year in the second stint of running the match there.
Gotcha. Hey, Matt, can you turn your webcam off and back on?
Yeah.
Looks like you're frozen right here. So that's, I mean, all of that to say is you've got an impeccable shooting, resume. At one point, I think you were top 16, were you not?
I've actually been in the top 16 a couple times, finishing the highest is 7th in production nationals.
So yeah, you know your way around a production gun. That's you. But
I definitely do. So
working for the largest production gun brand in the sport too. So, but now that you're going to the World Shoot on the IPSC Production Optics Light team, right?
that is correct. I am.
So,
So
when you dream about the sport, do you dream as a production shooter or as a carry optics shooter?
I'm still a production shooter, honestly. Like, still, like, that's where I came in the sport. I think it's still the best division. It's probably, I don't know, revolver would probably be the most gun handling intensive division,
Oh gosh,
obviously, with
yeah.
all the equipment.
Yeah,
I'm
it
working
definitely
through the
has the most
webcam
gun
thing
handling
right
for
now.
sure. No worries, no worries. The audio is what's most important.
Okay.
So just want to jump back because you've been around a bunch of new shooters. We've got probably in the chat right now, probably some of the diehards, but on the replay, there's going to be a lot of people who may not be familiar with you. So I just want to kind of bounce back and talk about people who are just kind of getting into the game and different levels of development, because you're a regionally, if not nationally, competitive GM right now, but you're around new shooters all the time. As match director, I'm a match director myself. So when the people first start getting wading into the game, like what if you had like that one 2-minute speech to give that guy after their first match, like where do they start? Where do they go? What are the recommendations that you probably give out on a monthly basis to the guy who's just getting started into the game?
So it's an interesting question, and I think the best thing to give it is like not say humbleness, but like I don't know what's the word for it, like
Humility, embracing being bad at something before you can be good.
Yeah, or just being like, you can't expect to come out here and beat the guys that have been doing this for years and years and years and literally dedicate their whole life to it. So like every club has the number one guy, right? And then you have a new guy that's come in, he could be any number of things, like a police officer or something. He uses guns before, right?
Yeah.
And then he comes to the match and he's like, well, I have all this training on guns and everything. I should do like a certain level, right? And then they don't. They go see the accountant or the dentist that comes out there, and that's all that, like, that's his main hobby. That's what he kind of dedicates his like second job to, right? And then he like shoots 45% of them or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty typical. I mean, when I see new guys enter the sport as well, it's all like, I don't care what your expectation is for today. Your expectation should be to fire all the shots required to complete the match, and that's it. If you do that, that's a successful match.
Yeah,
you are
definitely.
not going to win.
100%. Like if you come out and compete and do it safely, have fun, like meet some new people, like that's 100% a success.
So the one thing I like to say to them is these people are running around. It's going to look like they're not seeing their sights. They're just squirting bullets at all the targets, but it's just, they absolutely can see everything that they're doing and they're hitting what they're aiming at. Like, you don't get to shoot like they do until you do this for a long time.
Right.
It's kind of what I do in my new shooter brief. But
yeah.
As far as the next level is concerned, I mean, I would say probably like the C, B class, like low B type level is the next thing. So what does it take to be the new guy to get to kind of the C,
So
B sort
honestly,
of level?
I think to be successful in C and B class, you literally got to be able to shoot without penalties. And you can't be afraid of, no matter what the time is, of hitting any target that's presented to you, right? So that can actually just go a little further up. Like if you go into B and A class, like you have to hit the targets with some speed, right? No matter
Right.
what targets out there, like Texas Star, Headshot, or anything like that. But like the C and B class guys, I think like if they just go out, shoot a clean match at pace, but there's really no time limit on it at that point. Like if as long as you're clean and shooting, you're probably going to do very well.
So that's an important distinction you just made there of shooting a penalty-free match, because a lot of people are going to hear you say that and think they just heard you say, like, I gotta shoot all alphas. Did you just say you have to shoot all alphas?
Nope, not
Okay.
at all. Penalty
No.
free match. So no mics, no shoots, no
Right.
extras on steel would be another level just between the two, I think. So once you shoot that clean match, no penalties.
So safe gun handling would be
Yep.
kind of step one. Step
Yeah.
two is control of your fundamentals to the point where you can hit anything, any shot that they ask of you within reason. I mean, if it's a
Yes.
25-yard headshot and you have to send 4 at them, I'd say for a C or low B, that's probably okay. I like it as long as you can connect and make it happen. And then we haven't even talked about speed yet.
Right.
So
I don't think you need to do that. So like you get out there comfortable learning the game, honestly. There's so much to this game that people don't know beyond just like drawing and shooting target and reloading and moving between positions.
sure.
Like if you get so deep down into it, like just how you approach a shooting position or an array that you're going to, there's so much that is into that I don't even want to get down in the hole in that because it'd be hard for people to understand or kind of work through here. It's kind of, you kind of got to let people see it.
Right.
And just recently, like we were shooting our weekly match and people were asking like, why would you do this and this and this? And I'm like, okay, well, it's these 3 things. It's like, okay, well, my body's in a position to move to the 3rd array in this stage, right? And then also I can come in on an open target and leave on the next easiest target, right? If I'm doing it this way. And then I'm like, yeah, and it's also 2 feet shorter distance and movement. They're like, oh, that makes perfect sense. But at certain levels, that's not even thought about.
Right. It's so at that level, do you think the stage planning, like you think somebody's going to figure out the like super clever way? Do you think that enters into the equation yet? Or is it still like pick a plan that you can execute and make it happen? Or what do you think?
Yeah. So just pick a plan. Like it doesn't, like honestly, it at pretty much any level, unless you're taking multiple passes on activating targets, pretty much every plan's gonna net out to the same in the grand scheme of like a major match.
Unless like one plan has like 10 more steps, like there are sometimes
that
plans don't work.
That would be a little bit, but that can counteract some other stuff too, right?
Yeah,
so,
it's completely dependent.
Yeah. So if you're taking an open target that's 10 further steps away, or it makes an array easier and you don't have to shoot like crazy partial targets on it. Like that stuff you got to weigh out too.
So we've taken our C and B class shooter. What is a reasonable expectation to get up to kind of that, we'll say kind of that A class low M sort of level? What does it take to get from the BC to the sort of AM level?
So this is an interesting one. This is kind of where people either stop shooting the sport at or progress on, right? So a lot of people are like, well, I have to put in so much more effort to get to the next level on this. Do I want to continue on? So you'll see people stall out in B class usually and kind of be like B class for life. Or they'll go like from A to M in like very short amount of time, right? I don't know if you've seen that locally.
Yeah, no, I would say it's pretty. Once you develop the consistency to break out of B class, and you start to connect on upper A scores, it's pretty much a certainty you're going to move out of A like
100%.
within 6 months, because that's what happened to me. Is I cracked my A card, I want to say in like July, and I only get to shoot at the time. I was only getting to shoot 1 match a month, so I got 1 classifier a month,
right?
And I was an M by Christmas.
Oh,
so
yeah.
It like once you develop the consistency and begin to understand how to actually shoot classifiers like correctly, how to call shots effectively is what it is. It's shooting like you can shoot and sending makeups when it doesn't go the way you need it to be.
Right, exactly. And I
So,
think at that point you have to introduce speed into shooting, right?
oh, absolutely. You have to know the pace.
You have to increase your pace from B to A to M, right? So each level there is a different pace. So you have to, so I had to be very very deliberate and like just working on speed. So I'm a turtle like from the very beginning. Like I could go out and hit every single target no matter what when I was competing in B class in production and just break. Like I won I think every match I ever shot in B class production, I think. But it was because I could literally go out to every single match and hit every single target and the time didn't matter. But when I wanted to progress beyond that, I had to physically like make myself go faster and learn how to go faster.
Yeah. And it's not something that I'm struggling with because like I'm a big dude too. I'm 6'5", 250 or whatever. And I'm so used to in everyday life, like not using full force because if I do, when I hit something, bad things happen. Like there's a lot of momentum that I can build up.
Yeah.
But you have to in USPSA. Like it's not a dial that you just kind of turn up. It's just like you crank it all the way to 10 and then you dial it back, 10 and dial it back.
Yep.
And it's a very it's not something you encounter in everyday life. It's not something that you would think is safe to do necessarily with a gun until you realize that you can. Like a good example is like the draw going from the holster to presenting the target. And it really is just kind of popping the gun in your arms up to your index point. But people overthink it and like they refuse to just let their body kind of do it. And it's
the most interesting thing to me is like in the last probably 2 or 3 years is the coming on like how big movement is taking a role, and like people are like trying to learn how to navigate through a stage, and I'm like, you guys have been walking for decades now and running. Like it's just like incorporating holding a gun into that. Like let's not try to overcomplicate this. Of course there are certain techniques you can use, like drop
steps,
step. Yeah, I mean that's the probably most common one and the most dramatic one that people see,
or the pivot push.
But ever like you know how to walk from point A to point B to point C to point D in like the shortest amount of distance. Like now all you're going to do is hold a gun, shoot some targets, do a reload in between, and then shoot some more. Like it's just a repeating thing after that.
And the biggest takeaway, there are two things.
It's just a weird phenomenon to me. People like forget how to do simple tasks like move from one position to the other, and they got to take it and like break it down into 100 different steps.
Well, some people's mind work that way. Like we all kind of learn differently. That's why there's so many firearms teachers effectively teaching the same thing, and they just do it differently. And some people gravitate towards the Steve Andersons, some go to the Ben Stagers, and everybody in between. There's somebody out there for everybody. But the one thing I'll say on that is, one thing for me, being a tall guy, I like to stand up nice and tall when I'm shooting, which is terrible. It took active effort to keep my level low, so my legs were always loaded up with tension, so I could just pop out of the position faster rather than basically the pogo launch sort of thing. So look at your match videos, and if you're sinking down to leave every position, just think that's 2 to 3 tenths right there through not staying low. But so getting to GM, that's the frontier. I'm climbing up that hill right now myself. So I've got no more commentary to help here. What does it take? What do I got to do to be a G, Hoppy? He's like, there's no hope for you. You're done. Oh, did we lose him? Matt. Uh-oh. I don't know if you're talking, Matt. Let's see. I'm going to remove you from the stream and add you back here. Matt? Matt's got some technical difficulties going on, so I'll check out the chat and see what you guys are up to here. Who we got on board? So we got Rowdy. Good to see you, sir. The Chewy Cookie, Matt himself. Manny.
I think it broke up.
Oh, there you are. There you are. You're back. I got you. Well, Matt, we can hear you, or we could. Manny in the chat, how you doing, sir? Andy, nice to see you, sir. Keith, Najee, I'm sorry if I butchered your name. The red-bearded Yeti. Oh, he's got somebody. He's not winning any matches. Yeah, you're not going to win any matches with Latham and Nils. That's for sure. I don't know, Tater Tot, about that. Oh, Matt's back. Here we go.
All right, so we'll try the cell phone.
There we go. Cell phone it is. You're back.
Yeah.
There we go. So what do I got to do to be a G? Hold on. Before you tell me there's no hope and I should just sell all my guns. What do you think about this comment on the screen here? USPSA is 50% mental, 40% movement, and 10% shooting skill.
I don't think it's that much movement. I believe the 50% mental for sure.
I think it depends where you are on your journey. Like if you don't possess the requisite shooting skill to hit all the targets, then it's like 90% shooting skill. And it doesn't matter how mental, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mental game at that point doesn't matter. Movement doesn't matter. Like,
yeah.
Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. So if we say the very top, I'd say it's more mental than.
Yeah, I would say it's probably like
90%
mental at the top end of the game where you can do all the skills subliminally and just make it happen.
Yeah, I think so too.
Right. We'll get that out of there. So G.
So G, you got to be as fast as you possibly can, and you have to be consistent. So the biggest step from M to GM, like at a performance level and like match placement level, is a consistency, right? This is what everybody talks about. Oh, an M can do whatever a GM can do. It's just more consistent. Like, I think there is a little increased speed, and I think that comes from the consistency. So you can always do a 1.1 draw, no matter if it's a 5-yard target or a 25-yard target, right? That might be a little dramatic, but
yeah,
you kind of get what I'm saying, right?
Right.
So like the draw is the same every time. You're not going to fumble reloads. You're going to hit, like, you're going to do perfect reloads. You're going to know you're going to basically know what you can execute on moving targets and stages. So you're going to know how to navigate stages as good as you can for you.
Then it all comes down to execution. I mean, it's a function of how the classifier system works. Like the rolling average of the best 6 of your last 8. So you have to put up 6 hundos basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And it really is. You can't try for a 95. You have to try for 100.
You have to. Yeah, there's no way. Like, how are you gonna know if it's 95.23 or something?
Yeah,
right?
I got to do this in 9.2 seconds and not 9 seconds because that's a 95. Like, no, you're going to drop one more Charlie than you need. It's going to be
exactly.
Like, you have to hundo it. You have to try and hundo it, and eventually your skill will be such that you actually can hundo it. And it's just whether you connect on points or not, because you'll be able to hit the times.
Yeah, I think the time comes first. And then to combine them kind of is where everything comes. Like you'll get to hits in B class and start getting faster in A class, and then you'll get, like, I think there's some level of, man, I don't know if it's vision or not, but basically you're increasing what you can do, and I believe that's like you're increasing what you can see. So like if you get somebody, like, they can't do a 1-second reload because they haven't seen it done or tried it. But eventually you can build up to the speed where you can do 1-second reloads or 10-second stages that someone else is doing a 20-second stage on, right? It's just how you can process. It's like a processing speed, right?
So that's an interesting question about seeing, because increasingly, even as a dot shooter, like now I shoot irons target focused through having learned how to shoot the dot, and I can't believe we teach anybody front sight focus because it makes shot calling way harder. Like if you're actually looking at the sight, it's harder to see where it's moving relative on target, whereas if you're looking at the target, it's easier to see if the sight drifts off.
Right.
And it's just, I think target focused shooting is probably holding a lot of people back from the deeper end of the game.
I think I know why. So you have to develop a certain level, like, index
Yeah.
to do the target focus shooting and make sure your front and rear sight are lined up without actually you looking at them, right?
Sure.
Until you have that developed, like doing target focus shooting, you could be shooting to the left and not
Yeah.
even know
You
it.
just,
It's because the sights aren't aligned and you're not seeing correctly. So I
right.
think you have to teach front sight focus to develop the front and rear sight alignment without even thinking about it, and then you can progress on to target focus.
So the whole occluded sight thing everybody's been doing last year on
Right.
putting the
Yep.
tape over their deal.
Yeah.
I took my CZ75B to the range and put a piece of tape on the front of my front sight
Yeah.
and did the same thing because it was just barely above the bushing, but it would stay put. And
Right.
it did the occluded sight thing with my irons, and I shot a plate rack at 25 yards with a piece of tape on the front of my slide.
Did it go
That was
okay?
that was a fun exercise to force it. So there's a
That's
video
awesome.
on that on my channel if somebody wants to go
Oh, nice.
check that out and see what that's about. But
That's awesome.
so that's pretty exciting. So let's talk about the area director thing. So I mentioned it in the intro. For those of you unaware, Matt is actually on the ballot for the Area 3. And what states comprise Area 3?
So that is North and South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, and Missouri.
That is a huge geographical area.
It's a big geographical area, but it's not the biggest like number
Population. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it makes sense because a lot of those states don't have major metros.
Right. I don't think North Dakota even has a club in
Really?
the whole state. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's got to be rough. I mean, they've got all
Not
that
that
land
many
to
people.
have shooting ranges. Like you
There's
can
not
shoot
that many
anywhere.
people though.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. So just because I went out for questions among my patrons and all that kind of stuff, and the questions that came back were very good questions for a USPSA president. So
Okay.
what exactly does an area director do?
So there's, I think, basically like two key functions. They're a board member of USPSA. So they're on the board of directors. They have one of the 9 votes that any of the topics that come up, a rule change, a suspension, a termination, a budget approval, stuff like that. They're one of 9 votes on that. And they're also fully in charge of running the area match for their area. So those
does
are
that
the
make
two.
you match director or what
So
capacity?
you could do it either way, where the area director is the match director and they run the match, or you could sublet it out to another match to run, right? And you can have a club in another state do it. They can be match director. They can get the range master there and all that. So they set the match fee. They collect it all. None of it goes to the area. It just depends on how involved the area director wants to be.
Okay. And so this is not a paid position. Like the presidency and I think DNROI are both salaried positions, but an area
Correct. Yeah,
director
this
is a
is
volunteer
it's a
position, right?
volunteer position. Yes.
So you're legitimately asking to take what free time you have not doing the things that you like and devote part of it to keeping the other part of your free time as safe as you can.
That
Is that about
is
right?
true. Yes, I am volunteering for this. I do know I've spent quite a lot of time talking to Sherwin, the current area 3 director, and basically figuring out what's involved, what time is involved, and everything like that. So
Just out of curiosity, well, what is the time commitment of an AD typically? I mean, they have one meeting a month, right?
They do have one board meeting a month, and one of those months it's an in-person board meeting for I think 3 days or something like that. They used to pair it with Florida Open, shoot a match it with all the area directors, and then have the board meeting.
Okay.
So I don't know, and you have to answer like the area emails and stuff like that. So you have questions from clubs and from members, and obviously fielding any of the questions after the board meetings that come out, like people that would have. So,
and you would be responsible in passing out all the national slots to all the clubs in Area 3, right?
yep, I believe so. Yeah.
So you'd have to come up with some whiz bang way to calculate who gets what, because nobody's ever satisfied with how that allocation
So
goes.
I think it actually goes to each section, and I believe USPSA actually
Oh,
sends those out. I don't think it's the area director.
okay. Yeah,
I
now that
do
you
know
mention it, it's
there
section
are
coordinator.
some slots from the area match. So I believe if you're from the area and you like win your class or win the match, I believe you get a slot that way. It's not set in stone, so it's hard to tell like exactly how that works.
It doesn't seem to be an issue in this sport. If you want to shoot nationals, there's a really good chance you can get a slot to shoot nationals. Other sports have a harder time getting in, but I've never
Yeah,
heard of anybody who
so
couldn't get in.
I have never heard of anybody that wanted to get in and that didn't show up at the physical match that couldn't get in.
Yeah, I've never heard of anybody being turned away for nationals. So I
Right.
think
I
the
haven't either.
USPSA does a good job. However, they do it because invariably somebody's going to cancel, and if you show up, I think they do let you sign up on the spot. But
Yeah, I've never seen them turn away anybody.
so what was, I mean, obviously Sherwin stepping down is kind of one of the impetuses. Somebody's got to step up and take a spot. So that's obviously one motivation. But what's your big motivation in wanting to be more involved with the game? Because you're already an RO, right?
I am not an RO. I was
You're not an RO.
I'm not an RO.
Why are we arguing about rules with you? I'm an RO.
I
Yeah.
have RO nationals though.
That's maybe concern. You know, I will
Yeah.
say about Matt is if you listen to any of the shooting podcasts that Matt has been on, he is into the details on the minutes and like the minutia of what the rules and the bylaws actually are. So while I am a certified range officer and Matt is not, I have no doubt that Matt knows the rule book and the bylaws better than I do.
So I'm just not. So I've been doing this for quite a while. I have a lot of experience. I've traveled all over the world, seen how matches are ran, seen how other basically how IPSC is run and stuff like that. I'm not saying I want to turn USPSA into big IPSC. They have their own issues, so it's never going to be a one for one thing. They
Sure.
also, nah, like I haven't agreed with all the decisions that have been made in the direction the sport is basically being turned into with the current administration, and I want to offer my input and help them steer this back into a way that I think it should be ran.
So that's an interesting kind of segue because you don't get to set policy; you just get to vote on policy
That's
that other
true.
people
Yep.
set. So I'm curious, like I'm sure you've given it plenty of thought, but like what are you gonna like? How are you going to affect the change? Because really, all you can do is you now have open lines of communication to people in authority, and you can hopefully influence them. And I mean, is that kind of
Right.
what you're seeing?
Yeah, so you obviously can't go in there and be like real brash and say, I want this rule changed because it's bad and it's like not good for the sport and people get like matches are affected because of it. Like you have to build consensus with the group, and it is a group of people that you have to work with and understand and get them to like buy in and see why this change is needed to be done or why this is a bad decision to be made. So you have to build consensus and basically rally everybody around it so you can actually get some change made.
Yeah, I don't like the way that they like. It's tough to say. So I understand why they're making the changes that they're making because the way it feels like it's going is you're going to have basically open major where you can do anything you want to do to the guns. And then you're going to have open minor, which is carry optics and slightly more restricted. Maybe you don't get 2011s. Maybe they start getting magwells. Who knows? You
Right.
get 140s instead of 170s. It feels like limited is like the open irons and production is being pushed towards the like limited minor. Is the
Right.
way it seems like it is. Like we don't see eye to eye on what the character of production division should be. Like me
Right.
and Hoppy have traded barbs on like production 15 and stuff like that. Like we're in completely opposite camps, and I don't shoot
Yeah.
production, so I'm happy to leave well enough alone with it. So I defer.
So
but
I do actually see them like I don't know how deep you want to go into this, but the latest rule change where now there's no equipment restrictions on any divisions could be argued either way, honestly, but like they're tending to go towards there's less and less division disparity and differences between the divisions. So now every division can have a flashlight, a mag well, equipment can be anywhere, right?
Right.
They've allowed, like in years past, where any aftermarket part can be put on a production gun, like a limited gun, right? And no restrictions at all.
That was the slippery slope. Is somebody put a Cajun hammer on their CZ and got bumped to open?
Yeah, and the rules worked. The rules were enforced by another competitor, and they worked. And then they're like, "We can't.
This is too hard. We can't do it."
Yeah, we can't figure out the rules and what's what, so we got to change it." When the rules were applied and worked and bumped a person to open for that. That was the major starting point for that.
Yeah. So you mentioned alignment with IPSC, and there are I guess two things that spring to mind with that. It's basically race holsters in every division. What's your temperature on race holsters in every division?
Honestly, I could give or take it, honestly. I probably will never use a race holster. It doesn't make sense. The buckets we use now are plenty good for drawing, and they're a little more secure, I guess. Or maybe not. I don't know. Depends on if you have any retention.
I mean, personally, this is me thinking practically. I like race holsters because they're locking. I mean, there's a lot of idiot things you can do while you're learning how to lock and unlock your holster. Like you may get disqualified, and that's at your own peril. But at the same time, like they become universal. So it allows you to, if you want to switch divisions and shoot different guns, like there are several race holsters which will accommodate multiple guns. Like the Double Alpha ones don't, but I think the CR Speed ones and the Guga Rebus ones do.
Yep.
So you can basically have like one belt rig and shoot any of the divisions, which I think is kind of cool because a belt costs like $300 to $500 depending on how crazy you go with it.
Yeah, with all the mag pouches and holster and the double belts that we have to have set up, and now the magnets that are going to be required.
So magnets, that's an interesting one. What was your temperature on magnets?
So like it's fine, I guess, but it's going to be required equipment now.
Yeah, it is going to be required. I mean,
it's 100% going to be required equipment, and
it's not useful until it is. And when it is useful, it's really, really useful.
Very useful. Like you have to grab 3 mags in production and stow them, or you can just like slap 2 on a magnet. Or in production, like people are going to have to run more than one because the magnets won't hold enough mags.
Yeah, they'll have to have their first 2 pouches with magnets, or potentially like a front kit on the first pouch and then one on their belt at the like center line.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Which for production, like putting on the Wayback Machine, you were at this match. I think the first time I ever saw you at a match was 2017 Area 6. And there was that one stage where all of the barrels, you had to put all your magazines on the barrels, and it was a memory stage. And shooting that in production was the least fun I've ever had shooting a sport. I was like, this is stupid. Yeah, because I mean, it took me like 40 seconds to shoot the stage, and I think I still had a mic. It was just
that's not fun for anybody, right?
No, it's not. It's not at all. Like it was a bad stage, and it was one of these like smooth brain, like great ideas that snuck into the match, and that was strike one for me on stopping shooting low cap. But magnets would have made that state. Well, no, because I think it was written into the stage brief they had to reload from barrels, so I don't even think the magnets would have helped in that instance. But that's an instance of bad stage design more than it is bad thing the division being broken. Like I don't think the magnets. It is required equipment now if you want to. Like if you're shooting level 1s, it doesn't really matter. But all of a sudden, if you're traveling to area matches or nationals, then it starts to matter, and you're going to have another $100 in magnets on your belt, depending on what division you shoot and how many magnets that may be.
100%.
Because I mean, they're not useful for running around for the most part. Like in production, you probably can get away with it and maybe single stack, but like 140 millimeter mags stuffed full or a 170. It's tough to keep that on the magnet when you're on the run. Like it's not going to stay put. But
yeah, it'll be interesting. There'll be a learning experience for everybody, and that's never used them before. So
I will say for unloaded starts where you're loaded and holstered, having the first magazine on your front magnet kit on your first pouch, so your reload is already to the one spot that you are, like that's a huge advantage. It's just
Oh yeah.
it's a lot easier, especially in production where you're having to go like to the lower back position to get that last mag.
Yep.
You stop one sooner. So
Yep.
So with the flashlights, that's the big controversy right now.
So it is, and I think they were always allowed and limited. There was like a couple people that used them. There are more people that use frame weights and flashlights. What I'm afraid of is like no one's gonna have the testing done yet or before low cap nationals, but definitely high cap nationals. People are gonna have tested out the flashlights, aka frame weights,
Yeah, that's all
because
they are.
that's what they're gonna turn into. And that if they're an advantage or not. Holsters are not going to be that bad. Like people are going to have to, it's going to take a while to get holsters, but there'll be people that are doing the testing and they're going to see if it's useful or not. We won't really know till after that if it's going to be a required piece of equipment or not. I personally don't think it will be. I've shot with and without the flashlight. It doesn't change that much.
It depends what gun you shot. Like I'm going to do a video on this where I'm going to test it with. I've done a video on making a heavyweight clock, but I got a Shadow 2 optics ready now, and
Yep.
I'm gonna take that. I've got brass grips for it, and I've got one of these new brass flashlights folks are making for it. So
You
I'm
actually
gonna make
have
the
a
gun.
brass flashlight?
Yeah, there's two there.
Oh my
I know of two
gosh.
people who are making brass flashlights right now. So but I'm gonna take it out. I'm gonna run some drills with it. I'm gonna use the Mantis X to measure the actual muzzle lift and recoil.
Oh, nice.
And I'm gonna do subjective testing. Like this is what it feels like in hand. Does it swing slower? Is it more steady? My hypothesis is that it's going to be way more stable in middle and long range shooting. So the sights will clean up a lot faster at that distance. I don't think it's going to be any advantage on anything like 15 yards and in. I think it's just going to be making your arms more tired, but we'll see how it goes. It could,
Yeah.
a brass flashlight could destabilize the gun and cause it to dip a lot more. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
So-
so I don't know. So we actually put a flashlight when we're doing gun testing on our guns, just like the start and end of the test for a certain number of rounds. So I shot with and without. I really couldn't even tell, honestly. And like the equipment is so finicky now with lights, like and then optics that people are going to run, and people keeping the guns running without flashlights and heavy weights on the front of them. Like I think people are going to realize that it's a lot more work and it's not worth a lot of extra.
Yeah, I think the fear is going to be overblown, but I think guys shooting plastic guns, I think it is a real advantage for them. Like shooting just like a Glock versus a Glock with a TLR1 on it. Like I can tell the difference on those guns. Like your production light gun probably would benefit from a light, but at the same time, a Shadow 2 with a muzzle weight, I don't know about that. Yeah, it's already muzzle heavy. Like, what do you need the weight for?
Yep, exactly.
So, one thing that I'd like to just kind of throw out there, and this is more of a comment than a question, is it seems like the organization is more interested in trying to do outreach through monkeying with the rule book as opposed to like, okay, our social media game is not that strong. Like we're mostly preaching to the choir because like Facebook doesn't reach anybody new because you have to pay for play on Facebook. Instagram search and discovery is garbage if you're doing gun stuff. Like there used to be a day, you probably remember when we first got on there, you hit the little magnifying glass to search for new content and your feed was flooded with just gun stuff. And now it's all like fitness models with OnlyFans, like dog pictures. Is just
right. Exactly. There's nothing about guns on there at all. Yeah. So I actually agree with your statement. And look at this scenario: a new shooter comes out, he's shooting an appendix carry with his Roland Special carry optics gun. Right. He throws one mag pouch on his single layer stiff Kydex belt. So he goes out and shoots. He's competing against someone that has a SIG X5 Legion with a TLR1 on it, weighs 50 something ounces, and a dropped and offset holster with double layer Kydex. It's got a flashlight on it for added weight. He's got a gamer optic on it. He's got mag pouches that are angled with magnets on them. is this actually appealing to people that, and are they seeing it that it's easier to enter the sport at that point? Are they seeing that, oh man, that he's got a heavyweight flashlight and a brass flashlight on there to add 7 ounces? Like,
And
is he
tungsten
gonna
everything.
yeah, tungsten guide rod, tungsten grip module, like all that.
Yeah. To me, it seemed like the intent of the rule change, I think, was noble. Like, because I'm the guy who gives a new shooter brief every month, and I've had to let people borrow holsters so they could shoot the match without a flashlight because they didn't want to compete in open. Because I mean, their ego is there. Like, they don't want to be last. So, like, okay, so I got to race against these guys versus, like, they're going to probably still be last. I understand that, but at the same time, like, I also understand the not wanting to get stomped into the dirt by $10,000 race guns.
Right.
I think a good compromise middle ground to that would have been like, yeah, okay, appendix carry, who cares? Like, that's not the people. There's a natural position on the hip, like biomechanically, that is most advantaged for a fast draw, and it's not the appendix position.
Right.
So that's not really going to affect the state of play. But if the flashlight thing was like a level 1 only, like the same like the duty carve out thing we have for policemen, that's like you can have weapon mounted lights at level 1 matches and you can compete in whatever division. I think most people would be okay with that.
I think that's where they missed the ball. I think if they carved it out just like the LE use equipment use, like that would have been perfect. And then people could get in the sport, shoot whatever division, whatever placement they wanted. They could use their weapon mounted lights, but it's not going to affect the competitive equity or the competitive level that people are thinking they're going to have to do.
I just had a funny thought. We had let me get your read on this one. Let's put a set of truck nuts on our guns. So my response to that would be tungsten truck nuts for a frame weight. That'd be some next level stuff right there.
And limited, no problem. And you could do it with a race holster too.
All right. So if anybody who listens to this is in a position to machine some Picatinny mounted tungsten nuts, I will shoot a match in limited with those on my gun some kind of way. If you can make that happen.
Use one of them real small trigger guard holsters for it, so they don't get in the way.
So yeah, for real. I do have one question, and this is actually going to be kind of a tough question because you're close friends with Ben Stager, and he is a polarizing character. Like people either love him or kind of hate him, and people who aren't big fans of him kind of fear that you're just going to be like an earpiece for Ben at the board of directors sort of level. Like, how do you respond to that?
Well, so I mean, technically, Ben's not in my area. Ben is one of my best friends, like known him ever since I've been shooting 13, 14 years now. Very good friends with him. I think he, obviously he will have input and he'll be able to talk to me, but he's not the one making the decision. And like during this area, like that I decided to run for area 3, like my first thing I'm going to think about is like how a decision is made affects shooting, not anything else. Like, does it affect, or how does it affect the shooting? Because that's what people come to do, right? They want to shoot a match. That it should be fair. We should have a winner determined as fairly as possible. That's where competitive equity comes in. And like, if we have rules that are blatantly unfair across the country, that like literally it's something that affects them on no matter what it is, every single match you shoot, there will be a popper that becomes uncalibrated, right? So this is the biggest, like easiest fix I think we could do in the rules to make it where it's more fair for everybody. So you hit a popper and it doesn't fall, right? There's a set procedure in the rules that say to do that. Is it fair? Because like you've hit the popper, it's changed at that point. So if they go up there and shoot it again, it falls, like, too bad for you. Should have shot major.
Yeah, that's fairly common. And I mean, with the Ben thing, I personally don't feel like that's an issue. Like Ben's influence is such that everybody, whether they consume his media or not, his footprint is so prolific in the space. Like he influences the game with everything that he does. And I
100%.
don't necessarily see that you having a personal relationship with him is really going to change things. I mean, you're your own man. You don't live anywhere close to him, and you've devoted more to this game than anything. So, I mean, I personally think your heart
Right.
is in making sure the game is going to be around for the next generation and be something we can all continue to enjoy and, go meet other dudes at the range. But
100%.
well, Matt, this has been a lot of fun. It's nice to catch up with you again. I appreciate you taking some time out of your evening to come sit with us. Where can people find you on the socials if they want to ask you questions about stuff or yell at you for rule changes?
So Facebook, Matt Hopkins, Instagram, Matt Hopkins. You can search that and find me on there. I'm on both. I have a website.
Hop987.
Yes, that is it. I think it comes up if you search my name also, though. So
Yeah, it'll it'll pop up there.
I do have a website, hopkinsshooting.com. You could go to, not currently updated. I do believe I'm going to put some like articles on rule changes and stuff like that. I think we should do during my Area 3 candidacy and hopefully Area 3 director run. So definitely go up there and check them. I'll be putting posts up on basically Facebook and Instagram.
That's one thing. Oh, this is this is an appendix now. One thought that I've had is, and I meant to bring up in the main question, and we'll hit on this and then we'll sign off, is club support, because a lot of what the organization seems to be focusing on is like what they can do with like the stuff that lives on the website, and not like what they can do outside of HQ and all that kind of stuff. Where do you line up on that?
This is probably the most interesting question. People be like, why should I give my $40 to USPSA every year? Like, what do they provide me? So the easiest answer to that is they provide a stable rule set that's used in toss and across the entire country. They provide a classification system, so you can see where you rank nationally from basically anybody that's ever shot it. They provide the stage diagrams and all that. I don't think they do very well on social media. It's kind of like just a reposting thing.
Yeah.
The media they do put out, like for the NROI stuff, is very hard to find, and most people don't even know about it, right?
Right.
So go ahead.
I've got thoughts on the media strategy. We can talk offline about that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Definitely something I think that we could definitely do better on. I like the live streaming they do. Like they've introduced that the last couple of years where people aren't at a match. They live stream during the events. They'll live stream the super squad and stuff like that. I think that is something we have to continue to do. Like that is awesome. You'll have people that can't attend, watch it. Definitely could incorporate some sponsorship stuff into that where people are like, have a banner ad or something on the bottom sponsoring this live stream, or take it a step further.
They honestly could do that using this platform that we're using right now, StreamYard. Yeah. I can make custom banners. Like if I wanted to, like the thumbnail I made for this, I could make a like Hunters HD Gold, like stage 3 presented by Hunters HD Gold.
Yep,
I can make it swoop out on the screen, and then it would show JJ Shred a stage.
Support the actual match sponsors that sponsor the match. Like, not just that have to sponsor the stream or anything like that. Like, support the people out there that are supporting the sport.
Like, you really could do this. It would take a small media crew. Like, but we're a volunteer sport. So if you have a wired Wi-Fi range, you've got one guy running the console like I am now. Like I can. If we had a lot of people, I could pick cameras that we put up on the screen. And you could have one guy running control, and because he could just pop to stages that have shooters on them shooting stages, and like when the super squad is resetting, and like just cut away. Like you've got one that you're trying to get to. Like you could legitimately have an 8-hour stream if you had the volunteer support to do it. Like it would take probably however many bays there are. So okay, Frostproof, there were 22 bays last year, I think.
Yeah.
So it would take 22 cameramen connected to Wi-Fi, broadcasting, and you could absolutely do it. It would be the same as match video that you see, but it would be a continuous thing that people could pop in. And I mean, in my mind, it wouldn't be that hard to accomplish and have a quality product that would probably catch a lot of eyeballs. And then they could go back and chop it up and extract highlights and issue highlights for like a month afterwards. They could sell.
That's the biggest thing I see. Like, the biggest gap I see is like if they're at a match, they'll post 100 videos that day, and then you won't see anything for 2 weeks till they're at another match. They've been changing that where they share videos a lot or something like that on Instagram or Facebook, but it's not the same thing. Like I definitely think they could improve in that aspect.
The one, are you, I mean, I don't know how much time you spend on YouTube, but like Lucky Gunner has a guy that they hired, and his whole job is to make compelling, good looking content for the Lucky Gunner channel. And he gets millions of views because like he actually takes the time to develop content that has a far broader appeal. Like USPSA gun reviews, like having Jake Martins write up a gun review that's only going to see at best a couple thousand eyeballs in the magazine that nobody reads. Like it would be a much better use of time and resources to maybe do like a sponsored video on the USPSA YouTube channel, because YouTube is the best avenue we have for search and discovery right now on all the socials. All the other ones have gone significantly more anti-gun than YouTube has. Like we can't flash guns on live stream. So maybe that's something that we'd have to navigate around. I'm not real sure. Yeah, you're not allowed to display guns on a live stream technically, but we do.
Yeah, but Hunter's HD Gold is now streaming on their live.
Oh, well, right? You know what? I know what it is. You lose monetization when that happens. But as an organization, like they could just not monetize the stream and just do it. And then they could take all the video, pull the feed down and chop it up. And then if they wanted to post it up on their YouTube channel, like they could even narrate it in post and actually create drama to create a compelling visual product like Top Shot or something like that with the footage that they had. Max is entering the final stage. He shot 60% on the last stage. He needs this many match points. And then, show Max standing there. Like they could do it. It wouldn't be that bad. And I don't think it would take that many people to make it go well. But the other thing is leveraging. I mean, some of these people who shoot USPSA have massive footprints. I mean, I'm a pretty small fish in this pond, and I have more subscribers than USPSA has members. Right. And it would be really easy for them to approach me and want to do like a collaboration where like I get to put a video on my channel, they put a video of me on their channel too, and cross promotion becomes a thing where, I can reach eyeballs that they don't reach, and they point eyeballs at me that I didn't already have. And Jerry Michalek has 1,000 or 1 million subscribers. Lena Michalek has there's a huge untapped potential there where if getting new members is really the priority, they're not doing a very good job of it in this video millennial age, whatever we want to call this. But okay, I'll get off my soapbox. So, all right, man. Well, I've really enjoyed getting a chance to catch up with you and talk about all this. Really appreciate you hopping on the stream. And sounds like I'll see you at least Area 4, if not some of these other majors.
I'm shooting Dragons Cup this weekend, so I'll be there. Okay. Dragons Cup, Area 3, Area 4, Cornhusker, Pan American if they have it, Free State, Missouri State.
I'm keeping it sort of a regional this year. I'll be doing the North Texas Open, Area 4, limited nationals, double tap. This is weird. Maybe some of you Houston guys can chime in. Why are there no majors in Houston this year? Like 2 years ago, there were 4, and now there are 0. Oklahoma doesn't have a match on the books yet either. And if they
I don't think they will. Just Area 4.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. They have a pretty good match, but that I have a pretty small slate of majors this year. Being the family man, it's tough to. All right, I'll see you guys in like 3 days. I'm gonna go shoot matches
every 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's tough to do.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do Dragons, but it's just so far away from all my other majors. It didn't make sense because I haven't really carved out the time to really get frosted because I started shooting open this year. So I'm still trying to figure out how to be a major shooter. So
it's a different change. Like I had a huge learning curve going to CO, so I can feel change in power factor and going to the dot. At least you had the dot.
Yeah, the dot is the same, but the problem is the aggression. Like I'm engaging shooting for alphas at like 15 yards. It's like, no, bro, just send it. It doesn't matter if they're alphas. Just same split. You use it 10, you use it 15 and 20. Like it.
Right.
As long as it's some brown, you're good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Awesome. That's how it works. All right, man. Well, I'm going to end the broadcast here. And
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no. Everybody go vote for Matt. He's a cool dude. I can't think of anybody better who could sit in that chair at Area 3 director. So you've got
Thank
my
you.
official endorsement for whatever that's worth.
Thanks. Just send your Area 4 votes in for me.
Yeah, all you. That's right. We'll get on. We can't make that joke because YouTube doesn't like election fraud jokes.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I had one ready to go that was spicy, but we'll end the broadcast on that. Make your own joke, guys.